Now I give you the Matthew key, because I'm not going to keep you in the dark and make you look everywhere for the keys. No, I tried that a little bit and I decided, you know what, that's not the way to go. It's just give it to you. Because Jesus didn't hold back. He didn't play games. He said, this is what I want you to know, and this is what I want the group I chose to know. Okay? And I don't want you to take it personal. I'm not in his group and I'm not special. Just because I didn't choose you doesn't mean that God didn't choose you. God could have chosen you for a greater purpose than he chose me when I chose those people. You know, it's all relative and it all really doesn't matter. What matters is that you pray, and don't forget my name in your prayer, because I care about you and I hope you care about me and help me repent too. Now, the parable of the wedding banquet. Okay, Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his servants to those who had been invited to the banquet to tell them to come, but they refused to come. Remember, this is Matthew 22. Then he sent some more servants and said, tell those who have been invited that I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fattened cattle have been butchered and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet. But they paid no attention and went off. One to his field, another to his business. The rest seized his servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, the wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. Go to the street corners and find to the banquet anyone you can find. So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, both good and bad, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man there who was not wearing wedding clothes. Friend, he asked, how did you get in here without wedding clothes? The man was speechless. Then the king told the attendants, tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are invited, but few are chosen. Paying taxes to Caesar. Then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap him in his words. They sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians. Teacher, they said, we know you are a man of integrity, and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You aren't swayed by men because you pay no attention to who they are. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not? See, notice they set the stage to set him up, and then they sprung the trap. But Jesus, knowing their evil intent, said, you hypocrites, why are you trying to trap me? Show me the coin used for paying the tax. They brought him a denarius. Then he asked him, whose portrait is this? And whose inscription? Caesar, they replied. Then he said to them, give to Caesar what is Caesar, and to God what is God's. When they heard this, they were amazed, so they left him and went away. That's why I'm giving what is the ancient black African knowledge to the black people, and what is the white devils to the devils. And I'm also including the good white people, as my ancestors did as well, because they were in Africa as well, trying to help us fight against the scum. I mean, the scum! Now, where was I? Marriage at the resurrection. That same day, the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him with a question. Teacher, they said, Moses told us that if a man dies without having children, his brother must marry the widow and have children for him. Now there were 7 brothers amongst us. The first one married and died, and since he had no children, he left his wife to his brother. The same thing happened to the second and the third brother, right on down to the 7th. Finally, the woman died. Now then, at the resurrection, whose wife will she be of the 7, since all of them were married to her? Jesus replied, you are in error because you do not know the scriptures or the power of God. At the resurrection, people will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They will be like angels in heaven. But about the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what God has said to you? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not God of the dead, but of the living. When the crowds heard this, they were astonished at his teaching. He's talking about your soul. When they blot out your name from the book of life, you lose your soul. So he's the God of the people who still have their soul, not the soulless scum, devils. Now, the greatest commandment. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in law, tested him with this question. Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest commandment. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as well. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. Part of the reason I think I stumble is I'm so used to King James Version and all these other versions, the standard version. Anyway, whose son is the Christ? While the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them, what did you think about the Christ? Whose son is he? The son of David, they replied. He said to them, how is it then that David, speaking by the Spirit, calls him Lord? For he says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under my feet, under your feet. If then David calls him Lord, how can he be his son? No one could say a word in reply, and from that day no one dared to ask him any more questions. Now I skipped 23, the 7 woes. It's a good chapter, but this is strictly for the purpose of the key. I'm not skipping and choosing what I want. This is the purpose for the key, so you understand what they don't want you to see, what they want you to forget that you've read, that's in the back of your mind, that you know is true. I'm going to end with 24. Let's do this. Signs at the end of the age. Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. Do you see all those things? He asked. I tell you the truth. Not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they said, when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Notice the Mayan calendar, they refer to cycles and ages. So was Jesus. Jesus answered, not saying that the world is going to end this year. Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, claiming I am the Christ, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of war, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. But he who stands firm to the end will be saved, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. So all these nations are going to contradict you when you say, hey, your knowledge all comes from Egypt. They're not going to want to admit that. But even the disciples admitted that when they spread out to spread the gospel. So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the roof of his house go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get his cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath. For then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled. If those days had not been cut short, no one will survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there he is, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and miracles to deceive even the elect, if that were possible. See, I have told you ahead of time. And I am telling you ahead of time. Once you start arguing with teachers and people in your family, they're going to turn against you. They're going to try to make you feel desolated and isolated inside, when they are the abomination that causes that feeling. So if anyone tells you, there he is out in the desert, do not go out. Here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible, even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. That happened when Jesus was crucified as well. At that time the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the nations of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. The day and hour unknown. No one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken, the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a handmill, one will be taken, the other left. So they leave the vampires. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of the night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Who then is the faithful and wise servant whom the master has put in charge of the servants in his household to give them their food at the proper time? It will be good for the servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. I tell you the truth, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose that servant is wicked and says to himself, my master is staying away a long time, and he begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with drunkards. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect it, and an hour he is not aware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where they will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This symbolizes the black masters who served the one true master. I'm talking about the black master masons who gave the white masons their knowledge. Really, they weren't masons, they were cults and secret societies, but I'm going to label that to simplify it. God is the master who gave it to the blacks, who gave it to the white devil scum, and God will come back. He already punished the blacks for letting the white scum have it, and now at the end, the white scum will be thrown to the devil with the serpent. Thank you.